In 1842, Brighton had a population of 300. Just 2 years earlier, what was to become the municipality of Brighton was occupied by Aboriginal people. The rapid rise and expansion of the new township was brought into further prominence by the staging on the 25th of November 1842 in Brighton of the first cricket match in the colony between Brighton and the also recently formed Melbourne Cricket Club. Cricket in Brighton was established by two prominent Brighton residents and Melbourne identities, Jonathan Binns Weir and Henry Dendy. Matches in the early days were great social occasions, with those attending enjoying sumptuous entertainment and champagne lunches. Brighton won that first match 106 to Melbourne's 78 and dominated the early contests between the clubs. This perhaps frustrated Melbourne, as on one early occasion, as the story goes, Melbourne won the toss, elected to bat and continued to do so for the entire match, denying Brighton their opportunity at the crease. One of the early Man of the Match awards must surely have gone to one of Dendy's immigrants, the local butcher James Coldman, who scored 85 and then took 10 Melbourne wickets. JB Weir captained the side in the early years and was a graceful batsman, while Henry Dendy, who also played, brought many immigrants to Brighton, an essential qualification being that they must be able to play cricket. The formation of the Brighton Cricket Club in 1842 provides it with the honour of being the second oldest cricket club in Australia and one steeped in history. Legendary Test players such as Jack Blackham, Joey Palmer, Harry and Albert Trott and Bill Moole played at the club at various stages of their careers in the 19th century. Until the early 1850s, matches were played in an area known as Dendy's Paddock, in the Dendy estate. In 1852, Brighton established its own ground at the southern end of the present-day Elstonwick Park. In 1860, the club transferred to Grundy's Green off Mail Street, North Brighton, and shortly after moved to the drill ground, now referred to as Wilson Recreational Reserve, overlooking Brighton Grammar. In 1886, the club amalgamated with the Brighton Terminus Cricket Club, which played on an oval at Brighton Beach in an area that was once a racecourse. This ground, at the end of South Road, has remained the club's home ground to this very day. With the announcement of the establishment of the Elite District competition in 1906, Brighton, like a few other current-day sub-district clubs, was lobbying heavily to be included in the top-level competition. Its on-field performances in the lead-in had been respectable enough, and the Brighton area was well known as a breeding ground for good young cricketers. However, in order to qualify as a first-grade club, the Victorian Cricket Association required various other criteria to be met. Firstly, a club had to show an annual income of £100, a continuing problem at Brighton despite the area's supposed affluence. Secondly, the club needed an approved ground, including an arena enclosed by a suitable fence, presumably to allow spectators to be charged an entrance fee. In March 1906, the club held a highly successful garden fete, which raised sufficient funds for the construction of a picket fence and other ground improvements. The fence, which was around 10 feet in height and was not removed until the early 1950s, met one of the preconditions. But admittance to the district competition was not forthcoming, much to the chagrin of the Brighton Committee and local community. Having been relegated to the VCA second grade competition in 1906-07, Brighton and a number of other disgruntled clubs in a similar situation met and decided to form the breakaway sub-district competition, which they felt would better serve their cricketing interests. Thus it was that Brighton became one of the 8 foundation members of the Sub-District Association when it formed in 1908. The immediate impact of the new district competition on Brighton's cricketing fortunes was not favourable, however, since in the pre-war years its best young players were continually being poached by district clubs, predominantly St Kilda, whose zone included the Brighton area. Future Victorian players Norman Brown and Les Ferguson were lost in this way in the early years of the competition. Nonetheless, the post-war era ushered in a golden age for Brighton when, with the return of Brown from district and state cricket and the continuing dominance of local stars such as Gordon Robinson and Hector Jewell, the club won 4 premierships between 1918 and 1926. The team fielded in the 24-25 grand final is still regarded by many as the best ever in the history of the sub-district competition. Another star bowler at Brighton during this golden era was RC Bob Grieve VC, who in World War I, under heavy enemy fire, single-handedly broke the enemy line by lobbing hand grenades into narrow openings in heavily defended German machine gun nests. It was said that his left arm bowling on turf was just as accurate. Between the wars, Brighton continued to produce young stars such as Lyle Nagle, who went on to play Test cricket, and others including Vern Nagle, Jack Frederick, Jack Watmuff, Jack Daniel and Jack Green, who played at state level. After World War II, the trend continued, with a fairy story emergence of Jack Iverson, who made his senior debut with Brighton Thirds at the age of 31 in 1946, won a premiership for the first 11 in 47-48, and was playing match-winning Test cricket against Freddie Brown's Englishmen just 3 years later. After a lean spell in the 1950s, the signing of Lou Carter as captain-coach late in the decade ushered in another successful era in the 1960s. The team that won the flag under Carter's leadership in the summer of 62-63 was a formidable unit, which included a returning Jack Iverson, Carter's former Victorian teammate Dave Kerr, and homegrown stars such as Len Hayball and Bill Gillard. With the addition of ex-Test player Colin McDonald and the development of all-rounder Alan Tudor the following year, the club was unlucky not to win a couple more premierships in subsequent seasons. In more recent times, the club's most noteworthy young recruit was a young blonde leg spinner named Shane Warne, who arrived with his schoolmates in 1986-87 and spent one season at Brighton en route to cricketing immortality. Since that time, the club has enjoyed another revival in its fortunes with the arrival at the club of county fast bowler, the Dane Ole Mortensen, and at various times since, former state players David Shepherd, Darren Walker and Richard Herman. As in the 1960s, the blending of these proven players with homegrown stars such as Georgie Voyage, Brendan Mutimer, Tony Gilchrist and Kim Teschendorf has proved to be a winning formula, with 4 premierships won between 1989 and 2001. Since 1989, a further 9 premierships were won by Brighton's lower 11s to make the club one of the competition's most successful in the modern era. It currently has 4 senior teams and an enormously successful junior program, which this season saw 13 teams between under 12 and under 16 in the field. The club is tremendously proud of its long and successful history and eagerly awaits further success at senior level and the emergence of other young stars from within its ranks in the footsteps of the great players of the past. The club's continuing survival and success could not have been achieved without the service provided behind the scenes of a long list of distinguished and long-serving administrators, including Jim Grout, Jimmy Thompson, Sir James Kennedy, Charles Berryman, Bill Easton, Cole Shipley and Bob Treasure. Succeeded in the modern era by Graham Stafford, John Salter, Susan Francis, Taz Tudor and Ross Teschendorf. We welcome you to a celebration of the 170th anniversary of the Brighton Cricket Club.